Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Transform Policyholder Engagement with MuleSoft, Salesforce, and Guidewire. My name is Matt Cerna, and I lead the industries team at MuleSoft, and we're really excited to share with you all today how you can think about using MuleSoft Anypoint Platform to more efficiently and effectively connect core systems of record in insurance, like Guidewire, to front-end applications such as Salesforce. Before getting started, just a quick safe harbor statement and reminder to make your purchasing decisions based on products that are currently available. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. First, a recording of this webinar will be distributed via email within 24 hours. If you have questions, they can be submitted at any time. There's a questions widget on the left-hand side of your webinar portal that you can use to submit questions, and time permitting, we'll try and get to some of those after the webinar. We welcome you to join the conversation with us. Tweet hashtag MuleTalks to let us know what you think. And last but not least, we would love your feedback. So please rate this webinar by selecting the survey widget at any point. So here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to touch briefly on the disruption that we are hearing our customers speak to us about in the insurance industry and the implications that has for integration strategy in this industry. We're going to walk through some of the common challenges to think about navigating when it comes to Guidewire integration specifically. And a couple of our solutions engineers are going to show how you can use MuleSoft's Anypoint Platform to rapidly accelerate your Guidewire implementation and how to rapidly build applications on top of Guidewire that consume data from Policy Center, Claim Center, and Billing Center. After that, we're going to close with some details on how MuleSoft's partnership with Guidewire enables customer success for joint Guidewire MuleSoft customers, and we'll share some more information on where to learn more about that. So today's speakers. So you'll be hearing a bit from myself. I lead the industries team at MuleSoft, and we have two of our leading solutions engineers in the insurance space, Steve Murphy and Josh Mikulevich, who are going to be walking you through a demo later in today's webinar. So without further ado, let's get started. So MuleSoft serves a number of customers in the insurance space. And when we talk to our customers in this vertical, these are some of the paradigm shifts that they are coming to us with that is having an impact in how they're thinking about integration strategy. The first thing we're seeing in the space is an increased share of digitally engaged customers. What we're seeing is that there is a sort of an Amazon effect where the high bar for customer service that companies like Amazon and Uber have set for consumers is translating to more traditional verticals like insurance. And increasingly, we're seeing a lot of insurance companies invest in improved digital engagement as a means of attracting and retaining customers in a vertical that is becoming increasingly commoditized. We're also seeing changes in operational measures and roles. And what this is leading to is an increased focus on operational excellence. How can business processes such as underwriting or running a first notice of loss business process be automated as a means of increasing the margin on each policy? And the last key thing that we are seeing is macro shifts in life expectancy and behaviors. We have an increasingly aging population across a variety of countries, including here where we're recording this in the US. And what we're seeing as a result is that's putting pressure on IT to think about how they can innovate in a way that allows for this potential threat to be turned into an opportunity through the development of new products and services. One of the things that we're seeing IT come to us from a challenge perspective is connectivity. We're seeing is that due to the proliferation of end-consuming applications of data, of modern insurtech partners you may be trying to connect with, the average policyholder transaction crosses 35 different technology systems. And what this means is that integration is becoming an increasingly important consideration when thinking about how do you deliver on the types of modern policyholder experiences that are going to help attract and retain your customers over time. And the time of change really is now. What we're seeing is that the market is being disrupted at unprecedented speed. As you can see in this diagram, virtually every single capability that a traditional insurer provides is being disrupted in some way, shape, or form by a specialized insurtech company. And there's really two ways to look at this. One is, you can look at this as a threat. The others will look at it as an opportunity for partnership. But in either case, the ability to rapidly build commensurate services that can compete with these competitors, or enabling the ability to connect with and partnering with these competitors, is really making sound integration strategy an even higher strategic imperative than it's ever been in the industry. And that brings us to Guidewire. So we have, Guidewire is the leading core insurance platform for property and casualty insurance. I'm sure many of you, if you don't already have Guidewire, are considering or evaluating bringing on Guidewire, or in the middle of a Guidewire implementation. And given the central role that Guidewire plays in helping run an insurance business, Guidewire integration is really a core component of any insurer who is thinking about integration strategy. And so there's a few challenges that we see our customers come to us with, especially when it comes to point-to-point integration. The first is core system migration increases your operational complexity. So moving from your old platform to Guidewire can be very challenging if you don't have visibility into how data is flowing across your enterprise. And when the end result of that is as you switch off old services and move them onto Guidewire, there's risk of downtime. The second challenge we're seeing is that there's a lot of rework that happens. Services need tools for things like Policy Center, Claim Center, and Billing Center. Services that need to be updated every single time one of these application suites are themselves updated. Creates a lot of rework, a lot of maintenance overhead that's really challenging for IT. And then the third challenge we see is that there's an increasing number of applications requiring data from Guidewire, and this taxes your limited IT resources. And so let's go through these in time. So the first is increased operational complexity during migration. It's particularly challenging when you're thinking about point-to-point integration between, say, bringing on Policy Center and Claim Center, and thinking through how you can keep all of your data synchronized across both separate Guidewire modules. So in this example, Policy Center and Claim Center, as well as your legacy core insurance software. And so a few challenges emerge. One is there's a lot of duplicate integration work to connect each of these systems to each endpoint. There's no reusability. There's a lack of visibility into where data is exchanged. So if during the cutoff of your legacy software, one of your end-consuming applications goes down, it'd be very challenging, with point-to-point code to understand why that is and how to fix it. And another challenge that we're increasingly seeing our customers come to us with is that there's lack of real-time data synchronization. There's conflicts in customer data across even different applications within the Guidewire suite. So very challenging to help to try and resolve that with a custom code approach. And what we found is that custom code can actually exacerbate that in many cases. Likewise, when you think about changing systems of record, one of the challenges with doing a Guidewire implementation through point-to-point code is that if you decide to bring on a new system of record, so say, for example, migrating from Oracle, customer data from Oracle database to Salesforce CRM, is that if you decide to swap out one of these systems of record, you need to redo all of the custom integration work across those applications to your core insurance platform, as well as to your end-consuming applications. And the end result of that is that it actually constrains your agility. Because if you're looking down the barrel of all this rework each time you want to change a system of record, then you're going to be much less likely to do so, even when it's in the best interest of the business. And last but not least, as we talked about earlier, there's this plethora of new insurance applications. What we're finding is that if you think about what IT is being asked to do, IT is being asked to not only maintain core insurance platforms, support migration to Guidewire or other core insurance platforms, but also to connect these systems to a variety of different endpoints. And doing so with a methodology that scales linearly is not tenable in a world where delivery capacity is relatively flat, where IT budgets are only increasing, say, 3 to 5% per year. And that really brings us to API-led connectivity for Guidewire implementation. If you're familiar with MuleSoft or you're a MuleSoft customer, I'm sure you're familiar with this concept of API-led. And what I want to spend a few minutes doing is illustrating what this means in the context of insurance. So similar to API-led connectivity for other industries, what you can see here is that what API-led connectivity allows you to do is to abstract away the complexity from core systems of record, whether they be your core insurance platform like Guidewire, your legacy systems, or custom applications that you've built. And you can do that with system APIs. A At the process layer, you can create abstractions of business value, so things like a customer or policyholder 360 API, a brokerage 360 API, a claims API, and you can reuse that business logic around end-consuming applications. Few benefits to call out here as we think about the benefits of this type of architecture versus the custom code approach. I think first is you can see that the APIs serve as a abstraction layer between your business logic and your end-consuming applications in your core systems. What this means is that, for example, if Policy Center is updated and some work needs to happen to be able to map, say, a new field from Policy Center into your Guidewire API, the work only needs to be done at the Policy Center API level and not on every single endpoint that Guidewire is connected to. Likewise, what this allows you to do is to have your process APIs serve as an abstraction layer between your new P&C platform, Guidewire in this example, versus a legacy claim system. So that you can bring on Claim Center, for example, while running your legacy claim system and do the cutoff seamlessly without having to worry about downtime, because your end-consuming applications have been calling from an abstraction layer instead of directly from the source system that you're working off of. Last but not least, the approach scales. As you can imagine, any insurance company is going to have a variety of end-consuming applications that need access to policyholder data or claims data. You can see in this example, we have a mobile, a web app, we have a financial services cloud, and we have a third-party marketplace API. You can only imagine any insurance company, the number of experiences that require a set of data or shared sets of data is going to grow. And that's why it's very useful to have an API that you can reuse across a variety of channels. So what does this look like in practice? So iCare is an example of a company that has really embraced API-like connectivity as a means of accelerating Guidewire implementation. So iCare, for those of you who are familiar, is a workers' compensation insurance organization that provides workers' comp for the Australian state of New South Wales. So millions of folks that they are servicing. Like a lot of insurance companies, they had challenge accessing Guidewire data due to tight coupling of front-end applications and core policy systems. And this was really hindering their efforts to create a single digital claims insurance system and platform and really front end to empower the insurance, empower the workers who are receiving workers' comp to be able to get benefits. The solution was they implemented a single claims interface by unifying data from Guidewire, Claim Center, Policy Center, and Service Cloud. And they use a number of APIs to automate core business processes such as claims adjudication. And the results from an approach centered around APIs instead of custom code, on the IT side, it allowed them to deliver digital experiences like this digital claims platform 2x faster. And as a result, they were able to increase their NPS score by 19 points. And as you can see, when you look at their architecture, a lot of common threads between the reference architecture we showed and what iCare is doing. So what you can see here is they built APIs as an abstraction layer on top of Guidewire. They've created units of business value or abstractions on the process level with things like a policy API and a customer API. And they are reusing those APIs across a variety of digital channels. So with that, I'd love to pass off the mic to Steve Murphy and Josh Mikulevich. They're going to be walking you through a demo of how you can think about using MuleSoft Anypoint Platform to build this end-to-end experience of unlocking access to Policy Center, Claim Center, and Billing Center with APIs, building out that abstraction layer of a brokerage 360 or customer 360 API layer, and using those APIs to power a shared set of omni-channel engagement experiences, including a Service Console Financial Services Cloud and a mobile application. With that, I'll pass it off to you, Steve.
Thanks, Matt, for the introduction, and thank you to everyone for joining the webinar today. My name is Stephen Murphy, and I am a solution engineer at MuleSoft, focusing on financial services, banking, and insurance. Before we jump into the individual demo components, let's first take a look at the application landscape at Cumulus Brokerage, which is our insurance case study for today. Similar to many other companies within insurance, Cumulus has a highly complex and disparate application and integration landscape comprising numerous systems of record, either on-premise or in the cloud. For a more granular view, customer and account information reside in Salesforce in the cloud, claim, billing, and policy information reside in Guidewire on-premise, and there are at least 20 other key back-end systems, including legacy mainframes for payments and ledger information, databases, and of course modern cloud-based systems such as Twilio for notifications. Cumulus's key business initiative is to unlock data siloed within the aforementioned back-end systems to deliver a unified customer 360-degree view across end consumer channels such as mobile, Financial Services Cloud by Salesforce, and Affinity B2B partner portals. Cumulus have chosen MuleSoft's three-pillar solution comprising technology in the form of Anypoint Platform, our recommended API-led architectural approach for composability and reuse, and our people engagement for professional services to leverage our partner ecosystem and our well-known outcomes-based delivery methodologies. I'll be bringing to life the reference architecture that's on your screen now in multiple different demonstrations throughout the webinar today. We'll be looking closely at the constituent parts of the full API lifecycle from a management and integration perspective, for which MuleSoft is a leader in both Gartner quadrants. On screen now is a mapping between the full API lifecycle to the key components of Anypoint Platform, which we'll be looking at today in much closer detail. Also, throughout the demonstration, I'll be adopting multiple different personas to show you how different lines of businesses and stakeholders can collaborate on the same initiative in order to improve the speed and agility in project delivery. So for example, I'll be Mary, a domain specialist to start with, Jason in building out the actual implementation and integration testing, and Alex focusing on reducing the mean time to investigation and resolution by looking at application performance monitoring, logging, and the single view of every runtime, no matter where it's deployed to. Our first demonstration is looking at design and understanding how MuleSoft can drive accelerated delivery and consistent quality in this initial phase. First, we'll look at Mary's journey. Mary is a domain specialist who knows everything about the customer, billing, claim, and policy data models at Cumulus Brokerage. Mary was initially tasked with creating the blueprints or the API specifications for each in a format of her choosing, obtaining feedback from other team members on the proposed functionality, and lastly validating the API specifications with developers. Let's first take a look at Mary's journey to see how she leverages Anypoint Platform's Design Center to accomplish her task. So we are now logged in as Mary in Anypoint Platform within the Cumulus Insurance Brokerage Business Group. On the left-hand side, we have the Anypoint Platform menu, presenting all of the different components of the platform. For this demonstration, we'll be looking at Design Center. Clicking through to Design Center, we can see all the projects that Mary's been working on, including System APIs for Guidewire Policy Center, Claim Center, Billing Center, a Process API representing the orchestration of the different system APIs, and also a Consumer Channel Experience API, in this case Financial Services Cloud. Firstly, we'll take a look at how Mary has built out the Guidewire Policy Center System API. Here we're presented with the Policy Center API specification. On the left-hand side, Mary has included examples of sample JSON responses, and she's inherited a number of data types from Exchange for a consistent format, for example, a Policy Center data type definition. In the middle, Mary is presented with a self-documenting canvas for building out the RESTful commands and the API specification in the different modeling languages. We've got the HTTP endpoint, responses, and other fields as well that can be interacted with. And on the right-hand side, Mary has a mechanism in which to prototype the API. Simply clicking this button, the mocking service, Mary is presented with a mocked URI endpoint, which she can use to then test the API specification with team members and developers. Looking at policy, get, we can then try, add parameters, headers, and then when happy we can click send to send a sample response. We get a 200 OK successful response back with a sample JSON output. Documentation, errors and warnings are also presented to Mary. Similarly, Mary has another mechanism which she can use to build out API specifications. This time it is UI based. And the API that she's building is a Brokerage 360 Process API. The focus here is to orchestrate the different system APIs, including Guidewire and, in the future, Salesforce. Mary's inherited different data types again from Exchange. She can then click the different buttons and add information and data to the various fields. In parallel, on the right-hand side, for example, if you put a description in, the actual RAML and OAS is being built in parallel. So for those who are less proficient in the industry-known modeling languages, you can focus on the UI build, and then in parallel, the actual fully compliant API specification in either data model formats is being built. Similarly, as before, you can enable the mocking service and prototype the API specification. When happy, Mary can then publish the API to Exchange as an API asset that can be discovered by other members of her team and then reused for future projects. You can also manage the different versions. So in this first demonstration, Mary has designed numerous API specifications using RAML or OAS. Mary has designed and composed an API in a web-based visual editor, and Mary has also prototyped an API. For this next demonstration, we'll look at self-service of API and integration assets within Anypoint Exchange to facilitate accelerated delivery and ease of adoption. We'll now look at Jason's journey implementing the APIs that Mary has designed. Jason's first port of call is to log into Anypoint platform, select the menu, and navigate to Anypoint Exchange. Anypoint Exchange is essentially a central marketplace of all the API and integration assets provided by MuleSoft and built by Cumulus Insurance Brokerage's teams. From day one, MuleSoft provides hundreds of out-of-the-box connectors, templates, and integration flow examples that Jason can leverage. So he's never started from a blank canvas. He can immediately reuse some of the valuable assets that have been provided or built by the rest of the team, including a Salesforce connector from MuleSoft. Navigating to the Cumulus Insurance Brokerage assets, Jason can have immediate visibility of all the API specifications built by Mary, including the Guidewire Policy Center System API. Jason can click into the asset, read the description, look at the reference architecture, potentially look at API snippets, videos, and other means. On the left-hand side, Jason can immediately prototype the API, similar to what we saw in Design Center. And on the right-hand side, Jason can see high-level information, including the API author, the actual version of the API, and API dependencies. Jason can immediately provide feedback to the API as well, which can be taken on board by the API author. We've seen in this demonstration that Jason can search Anypoint Exchange for any API and integration asset, which he can then consume to start his implementation. Jason can also review, understand, and provide feedback on the asset. And Jason can accelerate his project delivery through the power of reuse. We'll now continue Jason's journey by looking at the development and testing parts of the API lifecycle and showing how MuleSoft's Anypoint platform can accelerate the delivery and increase the quality of the implementation deliverables. Jason has two ways in which he can start to architect an integration flow. He can go to Design Center and leverage our zero-code UI-based environment, which involves drag and drop and configuring of key implementation assets, including an HTTP listener, reusing the Guidewire Policy Center API, our out-of-the-box transformation mechanisms by DataWeave, and our out-of-the-box connector from Salesforce. For those less proficient in development and integration testing, this may be the perfect environment to start to build flows. For more complex integration flows, Jason can navigate to our desktop IDE called Anypoint Studio, where he can start to build the flows in a similar way, but also have access to the underlying code and visual elements in XML as well. On the left-hand side, we can see all of the Mule applications that Jason has started to develop. We've got system APIs for the Guidewire Policy Center, the Guidewire Claim Center, and the Guidewire Billing Center. We've also got the key process API focusing on the orchestration of the underlying system APIs. And then we've got an experience API focusing on the end consumer channel, Financial Services Cloud in this case. In the middle, we see the canvas where Jason can drag and drop different components from the palette on the right-hand side. From Exchange, he can pull in the system API assets and other core transformational components. Here we have the Billing API for Guidewire, the Claim API for Guidewire, and the Policy API for Guidewire, orchestrating the three APIs. We've also got a transformational mechanism with Data Weave, facilitating the underlying transformation, and then logging components. All of this particular API integration has been wireframed via API Kit Router directly from the RAML specification built by Mary. A simple right-click onto this router, you can start to create an integration test suite automatically and start to test and validate the flow before you deploy it to any environment. So in this demonstration, we've created a Mule project in NIDE from Mary's API specification. We've reused a number of connectors from the Mule palette, which leverages all the API and integration assets from Anypoint Exchange. And with a single right click, we've generated unit tests automatically using MUnit from MuleSoft. So we'll now continue Jason's journey by looking at the deployment part of the API lifecycle, focusing on how Anypoint platform can facilitate future-proof foundation at a lower cost. We'll navigate back to the development IDE that Jason's been using to build the individual Mule applications as defined initially in the reference architecture. So the three system APIs focusing on surfacing information from Guidewire, from a billing, claim and policy perspectives. The orchestration API focusing on transformation and collating and aggregating all the information together. And then the end consumer experience API, Financial Services Cloud. At this point, Jason would have tried and tested the API using MUnit and then potentially deployed automatically via his CI/CD pipelines, which he can facilitate directly via Anypoint Studio. At a single click from Anypoint Studio, Jason can deploy straight to Cloud Hub, which is an out-of-the-box deployment target by MuleSoft. This is another one of the key benefits of a unified platform, being able to deploy directly from the development environment to speed up that delivery. Once all the Mule applications have been deployed to Cloud Hub in this case, Jason can navigate to Runtime Manager within Anypoint platform to have a single pane of glass view of all the running applications. In this example, we're using Cloud Hub as a deployment target, but this could be any cloud. It could be on-premise or a hybrid. We've deployed the Process API, the three system APIs, and the Experience API with Financial Services Cloud. Jason can have high-level statistics and analytics of the runtime itself, and then via Runtime Manager can scale horizontally and vertically as necessary. So now that all the running applications have been deployed, we can now navigate to Financial Services Cloud by Salesforce in order to see a single view of the book of business from an insurance agent perspective. So we can look at sales performance by policy, monthly sales and renewals, and other custom dashboards. And crucially, we can see policies up for renewal, open claims, open opportunities, and unread leads. A lot of this information is now being populated via the APIs from MuleSoft. More importantly, we're interested in Cumulus Brokerage's underlying accounts and building that 360-degree view so that we can look after the customers and give a more tailored customer interaction. Clicking on an account at Cumulus Brokerage within the Financial Services Cloud, we can start to see the account information that we've surfaced from a Salesforce API, and then we can also see related APIs which actually pull all the information from the underlying Guidewire systems. So we've got brokerage billings, brokerage policies and brokerage claims tables that can now be viewed in a single view. We can click on the individual items, for example, this claim focusing on car damage. The way in which MuleSoft has connected into Financial Services Cloud is extremely easy. We've created an external object represented by billing, claim, and policy, and the underlying Guidewire APIs in this case. And we've got an exposed Experience API hosted in Cloud Hub that's tailored specifically to Financial Services Cloud and the OData endpoint that's required. As noted earlier, Jason can actually automate the deployment of his Mule applications through development, QA, UAT, and production to make sure that he is uploading and deploying assets that are within the company requirements, compliance, and security mechanisms. So within this demonstration, we have deployed a Mule application from Anypoint Studio to Cloud Hub within a single click. We've monitored the deployed applications from Anypoint Runtime Manager, and we've hooked Anypoint Platform into a CI/CD pipeline to automate the development through to deployment. Next, we are going to look at Alex's journey using Anypoint Platform. Alex belongs to the IT team and needs to make sure that Jason's APIs are fully secured and managed according to the corporate policies at Cumulus Brokerage. Once deployed, he also needs to make sure the app is always available and monitor for access. So now we're going to take a look at Anypoint Platform to see how we can ensure resilient operations and deep visibility from an application performance monitoring and logging perspective. So by navigating into Anypoint Platform and Visualizer, Alex can have a real-time front-to-back view of all of the deployed Mule applications as it pertains to the reference architecture. For example, the 3 key system APIs from Guidewire, the orchestration API aggregating key data from the underlying systems, and the exposed Experience API for Salesforce's Financial Services Cloud. Alex can click these individual aspects to have visibility of certain data and metrics like response time, throughput, failures, CPU utilization, and memory utilization. Alex can also click on individual APIs to see the underlying dependencies across the 3-tiered architecture. And on the left-hand side, this updates in real time so that he can look and zoom into the individual time series charts to really focus on any issues that are going on and try to mitigate any issues in advance of any failures. And straight from the visualizer, for each individual running Mule application, you can view the individual logs and the dashboards. So we're now going to navigate to the built-in dashboards that Alex has out of the box. You immediately can look at the time period, so the last 24 hours, and all of the underlying dashboards are updated, so you can zoom into any peaks or any periods of interest. Alex has the ability to create dashboards and alerts based on over 60 data points per business transaction, covering inbound, outbound connectivity, performance, failures, JVM, and infrastructure level as well. Alex has the ability to build his own custom dashboards, maybe specific to Guidewire policy, claim, and billing systems, or even Salesforce account systems. He can build his own custom alerts and his own functional monitoring for periodically and proactively viewing the resiliency and performance of underlying systems and applications. Alex also has the ability to integrate to tools of his preference, such as Jira, ServiceNow, and other tools that are relevant to monitoring the service and uptime of applications. Navigating back to Visualizer, and for example the billing API, Alex can view the logs as well as the dashboards. So MuleSoft has built in application performance level capabilities as well as logging capabilities as well, with the Mule runtime as the primary source. So we can look into the individual logs have been surfaced from the underlying runtime and have that granular insight into any issues and reducing the mean time to investigation and resolution. So in this demonstration, we've measured internal and external API performance in real time via the application performance monitoring dashboards. We've visualized the entire application network in real time using the visualizer component. And we've viewed the extensive logs in real time as well to reduce the mean time to investigation and resolution. So let's quickly look back at the reference architecture we defined at the start. The primary use case was to orchestrate the three system APIs represented by Guidewire Billing Center, Claim Center, and Policy Center, and provide in the correct format a unified view of the consumer and the brokerage's operations to Financial Services Cloud as the end consumer interaction. But as always, there are new requirements and initiatives coming in from the business, one of which is a mobile API. So now, having built out a number of the integration assets already, having them discoverable within Anypoint Exchange, I'll hand over to Josh, who can show how easy it is to leverage and reuse existing applications in order to swiftly deliver the next initiative, in this case mobile API. We can also speed up the delivery of future projects as well through the power of reuse and the application network that Cumulus Brokerage is starting to build.
Thank you for that introduction, Stephen. My name is Josh Mikulevich, a solution engineer here at MuleSoft, also specializing in the insurance and financial space. As mentioned previously, there will always be new initiatives and projects with their own requirements. For this specific use case, we will look at the creation of a mobile experience API and ultimately a mobile application that makes use of existing Guidewire system APIs, but is also aggregated with customer data coming from Salesforce. We've already taken a look at how Mary and her team can quickly develop and create API specifications to perform the function of connecting to the Guidewire platform's various services, Policy Center, Claim Center, and Billing Center. Her team has a specific domain knowledge of how a Cumulus Brokerage customer will look, and therefore will go back into the Anypoint platform to develop the API needed to pull the information from Salesforce. Once they have it in the correct format of what that customer will look like, they have the ability to go ahead and publish that API back into Exchange for the rest of their organization to consume. Once the final requirements that come down from the business as to what data needs to be displayed for the users of the mobile application, the Experience API can be spec'd out using the Design Center tooling we've seen before, allowing the correct pieces of data to be passed through to the mobile application.
Finally, as you can see, the mobile application has been created, ultimately pulling orchestrated data from Policy Center, Claim Center, and Salesforce user information, all without the mobile application needing to directly connect to those back-end systems.
We have shown through this demonstration how Cumulus was able to rapidly develop new products and services by leveraging MuleSoft's Anypoint platform capabilities. This included intentional self-service of discoverable assets and reuse of already built APIs to innovate quickly and achieve business demands.
Thanks, Josh, and thank you, Steve, for the phenomenal demo. Really great work. So in conclusion, as you've seen through the demo, MuleSoft Anypoint platform is a very powerful integration platform for extending the power of your core insurance platform like Guidewire and accelerating the connectivity of systems like Guidewire to your end consuming insurance applications. So in terms of the product that's available now, in addition to what was showed in the demo, we have a productized end-to-end integration between Guidewire and Salesforce Financial Services Cloud that includes a pre-built managed package with templated flows in Anypoint Studio and REST APIs that expose data from Policy Center to Financial Services Cloud. Coming soon, we are going to have a Policy Center connector available in Anypoint Exchange to further accelerate your ability to do Guidewire implementation with MuleSoft Anypoint platform. And so as you've seen through the demo, as you've seen through the product investment, Guidewire connectivity as a means of transforming policyholder engagement is a serious investment, area of investment for MuleSoft, and is an area where we are partnering with a number of insurance companies to be best in class at. And if you think about the key benefits of what we offer, I think the first, as you've seen in the demo, is we allow you to accelerate Guidewire implementation. You can keep legacy software and Guidewire systems in sync and gain visibility into enterprise data movement by using those APIs as an abstraction layer. When you do that, you can actually eliminate migration downtime as well, because your end consuming applications can call APIs on the abstraction level instead of being tightly coupled with your systems of record. So it's easier to make that switch over or cut over from your legacy platform to Guidewire. And once you've brought in Guidewire, this API-centric approach powered by MuleSoft allows you to empower new application development. to create reusable services represented through RESTful APIs that can be called across a variety of customer portals, AI capabilities, marketplaces, IoT features, mobile apps, anything and everything that you may want to connect your policy claims or billing data to. Interested in learning more? A few areas where you can do so. First is we have some new thought leadership, a couple white papers on our website that will be linked to this presentation. And we are also going to have a presence at some upcoming events. So we will be at Guidewire Connections on November 3rd to November 6th next week. And we will also be hosting Guidewire at Dreamforce, where you'll be able to hear more directly from Guidewire on the partnership we built together and the joint value prop that Guidewire, MuleSoft, and Financial Services Cloud can provide for insurance firms. And with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we will look to open it up for questions.
All right, let's get started with the Q&A for today. So we've got a few questions already, and before getting started, I'll just give another 30 seconds for folks to put in any additional questions that they would like to ask. All right, so let's get started. We got a few questions. The first is, the first question is dividing APIs to experience, process, and system could have performance impact. How do you overcome such performance issues? And is it really worth diving into 3 layers for all of the APIs? Josh, could you take that one for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that one, Matt. So at MuleSoft, we've found that dividing our API architecture into these 3 different layers does not have much of a performance impact on your systems as they scale out. We do have a great white paper that will dive deeper into the actual numbers behind our performance metrics. But what we have found with our clients is that being able to architect into a 3-layered system, allowing you to insulate your APIs from the backend systems and providing the correct formats and data to be consumed by your experience layers far outweighs, any type of small performance impact. And we will be able to go ahead and send that API or the white paper out after this webinar.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh. I have another one for you as well. Do you also have connectors for OneShield software and Insurity to be used with our existing platforms?
So out of the box, we do not have connectors for OneShield or Insurity, just as though we didn't have connectors out of the box for Guidewire. These may be in place or maybe thinking about coming down the line. But what we do is we have the ability to take the API markup for what those systems look like. So as OneShield or Insurity software exposed APIs, we have the ability to proxy them just as we did with Guidewire to allow you to bring them into the Mule ecosystem and connect and pull information just as we did with Guidewire.
Got it. Another question that we have is what version of Mule will the Policy Center connector be available for? We actually have Joey on the line as well. He was not speaking on the webinar, but he leads our Guidewire partnership, and I think he'd be best suited to answer this question. Joey, you on the line?
Thanks, Matt. The new Policy Center connector will be compatible with Mule 4 and should be available at the end of November.
Perfect. All right. So those are the questions that we got in. I'll give the rest of the folks on the call another 30 seconds or so to ask any additional questions, and after that, we will wrap for the day. Will you share the recorded version of this? Yes, we will. The recorded version should be available in your inbox over the next few days. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. As just mentioned, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to your local account representative for any of your insurance integration questions. Thanks, and have a great rest of your week.